Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Grab the Coffee podcast. I'm your host Trenton, and this is my beautiful wife Shannon. Um, just kind of today, I've been having quite a few conversations with my friends and everything, and just talking about dating and stuff. And we've kind of been talking about the fun stuff of our early dating, and just
Although I said that I much more prefer our relationship now than early dating. But anywho.
yes, yes, but just I just wanted to share some of our favorite stories, and because early dating was fun. It was a lot of
It
fun,
was
like
fun.
just getting to know someone, like little different things. I know,
And also when you click with someone that
yeah,
you haven't clicked that way with someone before, it makes it even more fun, I think.
yeah. So I early on was taught that I didn't make pancakes very well. She had pretty high expectations, so my Bisquick mix was
And we
not.
ate we ate these pancakes on a frisbee. I swear it was a frisbee.
My roommate and I didn't really believe in investing heavily into our, silverware and
Not at
plates.
all. No
Um,
investment.
we had a couple cups. Our dishwasher was really tiny though.
Although I have a picture of the first time you made me breakfast
Yeah,
at your place.
was it good?
It was good. I didn't say they weren't good. And then you went on a spree where you were trying to make pancakes without a recipe, even though you didn't have a lot of experience making homemade pancakes. And then I tell you these are a little tough.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely I wasn't adding enough baking powder, baking soda in there. Um, so
Yeah, but
you
it was
know,
very sweet of you.
I feel like I've figured it out now.
Yeah, now you
I
make
make
good
really good
pretty much all
pancakes.
your food you make now is good. But you did have a learning curve where you had to learn that you didn't know, and that was an interesting period.
Okay. But just kind of early on, I think we both have some things that we wish we would have done differently, or didn't didn't know at the time, but we would tell people now,
Hmm.
I would do this kind of thing. So was there one thing in particular that really stood out to you?
I think the thing for me would be to not have such high expectations or expect that the person you're dating or with, although they might be a good fit for you, they're still not going to be perfect. And that this imagination, this person you created in your head of who you were going to be with, does there's a reason that person is not going to magically appear. That perfect person is just not possible. And finding the good, all the good in someone, and not just trying to be well, you won't run a marathon with me. That's really rude.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
It will.
But
It's going to someday. But allowing, instead of, after we got through the quote unquote honeymoon phase, not allowing my expectations of who I wanted you to be um, interfere with learning who you are and allowing you to be fully who you are.
yeah, and your expectations. There's going to be some things worse about kind of what you imagine it, but there's some better things
Yes.
for sure.
And I think you don't know what you need. Like, I think what I imagined back then of who I thought I should date was a super athletic, forcing me to go to the gym sort of guy. And I don't think that would be healthy for me to have had that, you know? You were much healthier because you were you don't need to spend 3 hours in the
You've
gym.
already worked out today. We
You're
can
gonna be okay.
we can watch this movie,
And so,
and
yes, that's who I thought I wanted, but in the end, that's not really what I needed.
I made you cookies.
You did make me cookies. Although, when we'd been only dating a month, I made you cookies. Because my mom was like, oh, I used to do that for your dad, make him cookies. So, what did I do? I was like, okay, slave away in the kitchen, make him some cookies. He did not eat a single one of the cookies I made him. A single one. I threw them all away because I made oatmeal raisin cookies because he said they were his favorite.
I do enjoy the oatmeal
I
raisin cookies.
hate oatmeal raisin cookies. I only eat chocolate chip cookies.
At
And I had to throw all of them away. You
well,
did not even touch one. Not even a bite.
at the time, I was very seriously into like dieting, like a malnourishment diet of like no sugar, no things, and I was really good about it, and it's really hard to do now as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I didn't believe in having anything sweet, or
I
just
was like,
eating
that's
food
the
at
last
all.
time I make you anything.
Um, but that
So much work down the drain.
knowing what I know now, definitely not healthy. But I did have kind of that like gym bro kind of mentality, but without going to the gym.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we need to start back in our relationship. So what was your first impression of me? I guess from when we were just talking and had never met in person, and also when we had met once we had like your first impression once you saw me in person for the first time.
So like we really didn't see each other like a ton in person for like the first like 4 or 5 months because we had all summer, like we would just talk on the phone like all the time, texting. But like you were just like so easy to talk to, and that was just like such like something I just like wasn't familiar with, like getting along with someone like that often. So and then just kind of like early on, like you were just so driven and so focused, and you always hid this, but like you never like expressly like told me. You were like, oh, I'm on the rowing team, but at no point were you like, I'm number one, I'm like second or third on the all-time leaderboards or whatever.
I'm
And
not second or third. I'm like at the bottom probably.
okay, at the time. um but then just like we would like do these workouts together, and I just couldn't keep up at all, and I was just always just blown away. So I was like, oh, I cannot keep up with this girl. Like she's so smart, she's so athletic, like she just wants to do all these big things.
Even though you told me I couldn't spell. I still can't spell.
Yeah, spelling. It's my specialty.
Good thing you didn't judge me too heavily. Like,
Yeah.
girl.
You would Google like random things, just like words, like, and it would just be you just hit Google to see if you spelled it right. And, yeah, but so like, what were your first impressions of me?
Okay, so to back up, we met on Tinder.
Yes.
And we talked for probably 2 months or so, and then I kind of ghosted him for a while. And he got slightly drunk at his grandparents' 50th birthday anniversary.
Yeah.
Not birthday party. Anniversary. And I was on a rowing trip to DC. And I'd been to DC multiple times because my brother went to college there. So seeing all of the touristy things, just like, I'd kind of been there, done that, And I was like, well, this guy's messaging me again. Let's see what he's up to. And it's funny when, you're getting drunk Snapchats from a guy. So I was like, okay, we'll keep talking to him. And my first impressions of you during that phase, before we'd ever met in person, was that you were very goofy. But you were easy to talk to, but you weren't like super flirtatious to where it just made me want to like gag, You just kept it real, but also like the first Snapchat, like once we had exchanged Snapchats on Tinder, was the Joker thing. And like my first thing of like the Joker saying hi, I've never made it past like the first scene in any Batman movie except for that one that came out like 2 years ago, a year ago, this year, I don't know.
Yeah, so would you say that's your favorite Batman? Just to clarify to everyone, because there's a lot of Batmans.
Wait, the one that just came out?
Yeah, with Robert Pattinson.
Well, considering that's the only one I've watched, sure.
Okay.
Yes, it's favorite.
That is the wrong answer. I mean,
Well,
The
the one that
Christopher Nolan trilogy that you've never made it through is.
what's the one I always fall asleep on?
Well, I like to put The Dark Knight on like all the
Oh,
time. It's
that
like
one, the
top
first
five
scene,
movies.
like the first scene, I'm just out every time, every time.
Yeah.
I cannot make it past the first scene.
Which
But anyways, you sent me that little meme or video.
I sent her gifts. I used to.
Yeah.
It was Heath
And
Ledger.
it's just
so.
like the Joker, that's
Yeah.
the smiley face
Yeah.
guy, right? And he like turns around and he's like, hello. And I was like, that is so weird. Like, what? But I was like, whatever. And then but he was always really casual. And it was nice because like I could just talk to him and it felt like there wasn't like an expectation of like, oh, we have to like flirt or he wasn't, there was no like forced anything. It was just super casual. And I enjoyed that. And it was easy. And, it didn't feel like, oh, I have to, message you like back or whatever. Like there wasn't that annoyingness of, because that's why I hated talking to guys was it was just like, eventually I'd get so annoyed. Like, oh my gosh, this is just like,
Yeah.
I'm either bored or I'm annoyed. And
I
then I
was
just
like
stop talking to people.
definitely because we were actually just talking, but like like playing like Fortnite or like PUBG or whatever. Like between the games are long. So
And
it's
I think
like
that's like you weren't like super invested into me. And I didn't feel like I had to be super invested into you. So it's just like platonic. I think that's the right word. Like it just. But then we ended up being at the same party at the Here Apartments, and you were like, "Oh, you should come down." And my thought was absolutely not. Like
you're too cool to come to my party, which was way cooler. It had like it was there's cooler people at that party.
Cooler people.
Well,
Come on.
you were partying with some kind of like finance club. It is like the first time they had like
oh my gosh.
hit the scene
Uh-huh.
in Lawrence. So
he thinks he's part of the cool kids.
yeah.
Anywho, I was like, I'm not going down there by myself. Absolutely not. Like, I don't party a ton anyways. Don't enjoy it. Like, I'm not going downstairs to an unknown apartment by myself. Heck no. Not gonna happen. I was like, but you're welcome to come up. Did some of your friends come in with you?
No, it's just me.
Oh, I could have sworn. Okay, well, I drank a little bit too much before he walked in. So I'm like up against the wall, I think, when you walked in. And I just remember thinking, oh, he's cuter than I thought he looked. Because all I'd known previously was the Snapchat pictures he sent me, which were, he was not one to send like, shirtless he wasn't going for like aesthetically pleasing Snapchat pictures, okay? You just gotta understand that. And the other pictures were on his Tinder profile where he just picked them with animals. And also, they were cute, but I mainly focused on the animals.
Yeah, I think I had a horse picture and
you
a
did?
dog picture and yeah.
And you had one with bear.
Yeah.
I don't remember the rest though. So that's what I remember thinking. It's like, oh, he's actually pretty cute. Someone I told that to the other day was like, what, you didn't think he was cute? I was like, it didn't mean I didn't think he was cute, but like the things that attracted to me him, like when someone swiped right on his profile for me, was he had animals.
Oh, there we go. The animals.
So thank you, Bear. So those were my first impressions. And then once we didn't see each other most of the summer because, well, we lived in completely opposite states by like 13 hours drive. So like we didn't see each other but once. And you were just so easy to talk to. And I loved the sound of your voice. Like people's voice has always mattered a lot to me. And you were just like, it was so relaxing. And that's why I would fall asleep to it every night. And so, like, I can remember the first time you wanted to talk on the phone. I hate talking on the phone with a passion. And
I don't like texting as much, so
and I was like, okay, you can do this. You never know, like, what could happen. So just take this one phone call, and if it's terrible, you can hang up and never talk to him again. So that was a bet I had with myself. So I went outside on a cool star night evening in Colorado.
Sure, yeah. It was probably
on a hammock.
probably cold.
And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then we just talked about animals for like 2 hours.
Yeah. And I mean, you still hate talking on the phone. Like I have to do the phone calls.
Hate talking on the phone.
So
Hate. talking on the phone. If you want to contact me, email, text messages, literally anything else, do not call me.
Letter.
There are very few people I will talk to on the phone, and that's literally my mom and dad and probably like my immediate family. And Trenton James, but he's part of my immediate family, I guess. So.
Him now.
So that's it. Don't call me on the phone. Don't in person through text messages. You can even shoot me an email. Hate talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
And, I mean, we had a lot of good conversations on the phone too. Like, I mean, it was fun though, because like we didn't know each other super well, but like, just kind of, there's some like important conversations that like you need to have early on. And I think both of us are on the same page. Like, have these conversations not too soon though, because like that ruins the fun, you know, like but like you need to have them in like a decent, like what would you say, like 3 months, 6 months, 3 to 6 months?
Yes. Yeah. And I obviously think it depends on like your age too, because if you're old, I mean, we were 19 and 20 when we officially started dating. So like I did not need to whip out to him in like the first even year, probably be like, just so you know, I do want to adopt someday. I would like this many, like, I was just not even on our minds at all. Like, that's down the road. Don't really care. Like, we knew we were serious, but not so serious where we were like planning on getting married anytime in the near future.
Yeah, but having those conversations is important. And like just like overall like values, or like, you know, like you were like, live in a big city kind of thing at some point, you know, like,
and you knew that I wanted to live somewhere a little farther away, for at least a little part of life, like whether it was New York City. I never would have imagined Atlanta, but here we are. I just always wanted to experience some other areas, and I think at the time, like, you weren't super comfortable with that because you're like, no, we'll just see how that goes.
Small town vibes. Like, I was like in my country roots, like.
Okay, I have a funny question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any like certain memory that you just like kind of giggle back on, laugh at? I don't know. But when you think of a conversation we had when we were just talking on the phone. Because one comes to mind for me.
Yeah. Well, I know that there was this one time where like you had like a bat like infiltrate your basement place or whatever, and like had to get that thing, and like you and your sister were in like hysterics, just like freaking out. And
my sister and I ran out of the house.
Yeah.
It was a crazy moment in time. My mom is hiding behind a door, like swinging a towel up and down. My dad and my brother are trying to capture the bat with like a basket or something. Oh my gosh, it was It was a really interesting moment in time.
But that may have been like the first time like we were like FaceTiming, because I think I had an Android at this time, which
lame. I know. It took a lot of convincing to get him to Apple. I just want you all to know that. Like, it took a lot of convincing. I was like, you need to go to Apple. No, Apple sucks. And I was like, harsh crowd. Okay, you're gonna convert.
I do enjoy my iPhone now. Now, I did have, I don't remember what kind of phone I had.
And you'd have to change out those batteries.
I had.
Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
This was my one thing. I had 3 batteries because the phone battery was terrible. But I was like, man, they'll just be at 100%.
I forgot about that.
So I would carry around these extra batteries.
It was like the goofiest thing. He'd be like, hold up, I gotta change my battery. I'm like, who carries around like 3 phone batteries just in their pocket? Like, what is this?
And then it had the audio port, so I still had wired headphones, but it did have like a micro C, so it was ahead of the curve. iPhones are gonna have that now.
It was ahead of the curve with the battery changing, and I remember you arguing with me that like iPhones suck because you couldn't change the battery.
Yeah, but I mean, it just turns out when you have 3 batteries that last about 1 iPhone, it's probably not worth it. So
that was so funny. Oh my gosh. But one conversation I remember us having was I go to bed early and he wakes up super late. He goes to bed late.
And like at this like first summer, like I was working like a second shift, so like I was like literally going to bed like 4 or 5 in the morning kind of thing.
And you got back from work at like
11.
11.
Yeah.
So it was 10 Mountain Time, thank goodness. I could not have made it to 11. But one night you were like, oh, the Travis Scott album comes out. And I just remember you being like,
This was
I got a,
Astro World
I got a new
was
speaker
releasing.
for
Yeah.
this. I was like, hold up. You got a new
So
speaker for an album release? Like, what is this? He's like, oh, we're gonna be vibing to it in the basement.
yeah.
And I was like,
So my
what?
friend and I, we both went to Best Buy. They had a little summer sale on their Sony speakers. I got the small one, and he got the biggest one they had because you know he's like the biggest Travis Scott fan. But
Oh my gosh.
so
I just remember being like, what?
11 o'clock hit, and we were just vibing out the Astro World. The Weeknd had a feature on it. A lot of good stuff. Nav was on it with his. It was a good time.
That brings me to another question I had was, what's a moment in our dating relationship where you were like, there was just like an odd moment or something where you're like, is this the right girl for me?
Oh man.
Kind of made you second guess, like just like a double check.
I don't know if there's one like I can think of because like I just like remember telling my friends like, wow, this girl's like incredible, like we're gonna get married, like super early on, like before like I'd even told you that like I love you.
Uh-huh.
Like I was like, this girl's the one. So I don't know.
Okay, well,
Did you have
I
that
did have
moment?
one. I did have a
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite moments to look back on kind of fondly because now I think it's really funny. But I'm going to his parents' house for the first time. All right? Like, first time ever. He's driving me down there, and we're in the car, and he's dead silent the whole way. And he also looks like he's going to fall asleep. So I'm like, I hope he's awake. But, like, the way Trenton James sits in a car sometimes, he reclines his chair. Like, he is all the way back.
I slouch
He's
pretty bad.
he's napping pretty much, and his eyes are like halfway open, but not like to where you have to like look to make sure they're actually open, but they're open.
And this drive from where we went to school back to my parents is like two roads. So like you go east and then go south. So it's
And I was like,
very
okay,
simple.
well I was like, because I sometimes imagine things in the future, and I was like, wow, like we're gonna be, road tripping one day with our kids, and they're gonna be like, do mom and dad ever talk? Like, they're dead silent all the time. They just don't talk. I remember thinking, okay, that's interesting. Then we get to his parents' house. And he would not sit even next to me. Like, we had to leave room for Jesus plus. Like, we were leaving. Like, we were not even friends. We were maybe acquaintances. Like, we'd never met before. And I remember thinking, interesting. Like, all right. Well, I guess I'll sit here by myself. This is not awkward.
Yeah, this was the first girl I'd brought back to my parents' house.
And I did not know this at the time.
I was, probably a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And by little, he would not sit near me or touch me or look at me. Like, I was like an invisible block. But then, y'all will never guess what happened that night. You're right. Poker night with the boys. And I can remember them coming into the basement. Like, they didn't use the front door. They used the basement door.
Yeah.
One of them walks in, Cyrus,
Yeah.
walks in with his bottle of tequila.
It was vodka. Yeah, we were
bottle
drinking
of vodka.
Couldn't afford tequila back in the day.
And they all come in, and they're just, so loud. And I'm like, what a hectic day. Like, what? Okay. I don't even understand. And he just starts drinking it out of the bottle. And I was like, what the heck? And I was just like, and I don't even think Trenton James introduced me to them. And so I'm just sitting at the table. They're starting their poker game. And I just thought to myself, I was like, well, I guess I'll go to bed.
Yeah, she didn't want to play, but she's crazy good at shuffling cards. So I think you were a dealer that night. But I was just, I don't think we had been playing poker all summer. And like this was like the first time we had gotten everyone together, and it's hard to get 8 people together,
Yes.
especially when everyone's
Mhm.
traveling. So this was a big deal. We had all planned this. The whole trip was around this.
But you could
This,
have at least introduced me. You could have been
yeah.
like,
Well,
"Hey, this is."
I thought I did. I was excited for you to meet them, but then
Mhm.
you kind of went to bed. I think we were up like all night. So then, the
Yeah.
next day was kind of a wash. And
Yes. So that was my first experience at his home. And that just, that, like, even though you can like a person, that can just leave you wondering what the future looks like. Although we'd only been dating, like, what, probably 2 or 3 months, 4 months?
yeah, I think it was 4 maybe.
It just leaves you wondering, you know? Like, I knew I liked him, but I was like, oh my gosh, is this gonna be, like, will he ever sit next to me when we're at his parents' house? Or do we always have to pretend, like, that we don't know each other? Because, like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just going from like, but like that's something like I've gotten better about, and as
Yes,
far as like
yeah.
expectations, but like, it wasn't like a deal breaker for us, which I
No.
think's like a big deal for like a lot of people and like a lot of relationships I see like little things will like be like crazy big when you should just like let that go. Like,
Yeah. And understanding when something is like a deal breaker and when it's just like more of an internal like problem
yeah,
that you have to work through. Just like, oh, okay, I think it's okay if he doesn't talk in the car the full way on our first ever road trip together. Like, what are we really supposed to talk about for 2.5 hours in a way where we're both kind of tired? And just like some of those things where it's really easy to just like jump to a conclusion and be like, we're just not a good fit. I would
this
expect
isn't
if we
gonna
took
work.
a 12-hour car ride together for you to speak the entire time. Come on. Like, no, that's not realistic.
Now,
But,
I mean, for the most part, like, so, like, when we go on, like, long trips, like, you wake up, like, 3, 4 in the morning and, like, all sleep for the
hmm
first couple.
yeah.
But, like, we do a good job. We have some fun
Yeah, but we
conversation.
also just like listen to a podcast or
Yeah,
I'll sing my songs or whatever.
yeah. But
We don't just have to talk the entire
yeah,
12
and, I mean,
hours.
it's hard to talk for 12 hours.
Exactly. And so like that car trip, I jumped to the conclusion like, oh, like we're never going to talk on any car trip ever, which is a very large jump to make. And so understanding that some things are super small and some of the early conflict we had um, was just what where we had to kind of think like, okay, is this like a difference in our kind of what you pointed out, like is it a difference in our values where we're just not
Or
compatible?
just differences, like, between people,
Yeah,
you know.
or just like something we need to understand about the other person that we can work through. And I think it's easy for one person to either make a big jump and be like this is just not something we can work through, like give up easier. But like relationships are never going to be easy. You're going to have to go through some crap.
And they're not going to be perfect either.
Yeah.
Like, it's not possible.
And being able to communicate through that. And I feel like that's the like wedding advice everyone gets you: communicate, communicate, communicate. But
They don't explain, like, how to communicate.
yeah, and like there's a process, like you don't need to just share your heart and soul like the first 2 months of dating. And if that's what you do, by all means, go do that. But like for us, it's been a slow growth of like opening up. Like we opened up quite a bit before we got married, and then we got married, and like we were able,
Avery.
able to
Avery.
to like become even get into deeper conversation and talk more openly. But like you can't expect someone to just like, be like, "Oh, here's my whole life story and everything about me and everything that I hate and everything."
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, just some of the conversations that like you don't have like when you're like dating early. Like that's meant to be like fun, like both people have like their guards up, and then
Yeah. And I don't think you should like want to cuz
which
build good memories,
yeah,
you know.
but I guess like some people like they'll talk to someone for like a couple months, and then like they'll get really sad like if like they are no longer like talking to each other, but like that's probably a good thing. Like
Yeah.
you started to open up more and found you weren't compatible. Like she wasn't, he or she wasn't like the one for you. So
Yeah. Like I would say there was a few things I thought were deal breakers early on. Like having someone who loved fitness. I was like, "Oh, if you would have asked pre Trenton James Shannon, should have been like, "Oh, if he's not into fitness, like it's a no-go." But really, that's not wasn't a deal breaker for me, but it is something I had to understand that it wasn't a deal breaker. Like that wasn't part of my value system. And so being in a relationship, you also have to do a lot of internal
yeah, and then
reflection.
just kind of like on that, like I don't know, like early on, like I would like invite you to everything, like expect you to like go out and like, oh, here's like all these people I know, like say hi to them, like have it just like really wasn't you. Like we had our best times when we would like wake up. Well, you would wake me up early in the morning and like pick me up, and we'd go get like coffee or something, and then we were just talking alone. So
I'm a deep conversation, intimate circle gal.
yeah,
But
very
he would take me to parties, and most of the time I was probably sitting in a corner by myself.
yeah.
I'm a great partier. You should definitely invite me. I'm such a fun time.
There was so we went to like a house party, and you had just gotten our dog Holly. She was a little puppy, and I was like, oh, let's bring her, like socialize her. She's gonna be great. And I just remember she was miserable. She was scared of everything, and then you were in the corner. So all these people were just like, oh, can I pet her? Can I pet her? And she just didn't want to at all. And
Holly and I are one and the same.
yeah, very similar
We both
personality.
just want to be in the corner or leave when there's lots of people around. We like our circles.
And then there was that one, oh, what was it? It was some kind of like award event for like KU athletics or whatever. And like we
Oh yeah, the
ate
Rough Church
dinner,
Horse Awards. Yeah.
and then we like left. We took
Mhm.
some pictures though. I
Yeah.
went and bought a suit because
Oh,
I
that's
I
funny.
had like lost
Oops.
like quite a few pounds, so like my other suit like didn't fit. So
Yeah, we
uh,
definitely dipped though. I was like, oh, we don't need to stay. Like, let's just.
yeah. But I think that was like around the time of my birthday, so my parents bought me a suit for,
Oh, that's funny.
because I also need it for like job interviews and
Yeah.
things. But
And I like one conversation I think that was very beneficial we had early on was I think we'd both been around people where they did the on again, off again relationship where it's like we break up, we get back together, we break up. And something that was important to both of us was like, hey, if we break up, we're breaking up. Like I don't want to do the on again, off again. Like if we're not willing to fight through it,
yeah,
then what makes us think that we're going to be able to
do this long term.
do it long term?
That
'Cause
was that was one of like our like important conversations, like
so
talking back earlier.
yeah,
Like
and so like when we worked through an argument, we knew that if we broke up because we were in an argument, that means we were done. Like there was no going back. And I think that was very healthy for us because it did force us to communicate better through fights and
yeah,
also learn each other's like kind of fighting style. Cuz like I hate yelling and all that, and I don't think either one of us are yellers. But like anytime you even raised your voice, I'd be like, I can't do that. But I'm a lever. Like I'm a processor.
I think like we definitely had some times like it would take about a day before you were like ready to talk.
Yes.
And it's important to give people that space. It bothered me like all the time. I was just like, okay, like
And it took you a
you
while for you to be like, hey, like I need you to like tell me that you don't like hate me, because you'd be like, I just thought you were gonna leave me, and I was like, no, I just needed to figure out if it was like a me problem, like, am I angry just because I feel like being angry, or is it like there's something that's disconnected between us, like that we need to figure out? Because if it's really just me being angry because of something I'm going on with by myself, like why do I need to lash out on you and say things that are going to hurt us when it's purely about me, like something I'm struggling and I'm just taking it out on you.
yeah.
But I didn't do good about communicating that I was trying to figure that out early on in our dating, which would have probably been really healthy.
Yeah. It worked out. I don't know if we could have like
Yeah.
made,
And something that you struggled with early on was the time, like understanding that you can spend time like I needed my time with just you.
Yeah,
And
and time with other friends and
yes.
kind of thing. Yeah, I probably didn't need to invite you to everything. If
Well, and I think I was like, I wanted to just spend time with you. Like, I didn't really want to go the other things. And I think sometimes that made you feel torn. Um, like, when, like, Matt came to town and you were like, and I was mad at you because I was like, you haven't seen me a ton.
yeah, but I feel like I invited you to everything, and you were like, no, no, take your time with the friends.
Yeah, no, you did invite me to everything, but it wasn't that I didn't want. I wanted to see you. I just really did not want to see everyone else. That's why I got a dog, because she was my prime excuse. Like, oh, you want to go out? You know, I'd really love to, but Holly needs a walk, a really long walk, actually. Yep, that's why.
Yeah,
Okay, you ready for our final question?
yeah.
What is the moment that you knew that? I think it would be phrased like that I was the quote unquote the one, or just knew that this was a possibility for a long term relationship.
Hmm. I wasn't ready for this one. So like, I always tell you this, but this is like one of my favorite moments was like our like first time like going, because we went on walks all the time. We like would just drive out. It was kind of a long drive out there to the
It was not that long of a drive.
I thought it was a long drive. It's several miles.
He thinks everything's a long drive.
Yeah, that is true. But we went out to the to like dog park area, and we were going on some trails and stuff, and just walking and talking, and I think you fell into the river because like you were trying to cross some log, and then we were just trying to get Holly to swim,
She
and
did not want to swim.
she loves water now, but at the time she was pretty young though.
And so you walked her like he was like knee deep in water, just walking her, like helping her get across to the where I had crossed.
Yeah.
'Cause she was freaking out.
And then like we didn't want to go back the other way, so we took like a really long detour. Like we were out there for several hours.
Yeah, that was really fun.
And
though.
all our socks were wet and everything. But it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Did you have like some moment that you were like, this is it?
Yes. So when we had probably been dating like maybe a month, I like to ask you lots of questions, as you know.
Yeah.
And I'd ask you like, "Oh, what's your like dream job?" And you had told me a stay-at-home dad and a oh, what is it? No, not a minor league. What's the little kids baseball?
Little League?
Oh, yes, and be a little league baseball coach. And I remember thinking, I loved that he wanted to be a little cute, like a baseball coach for our kids. I was like, that's cute. Stay at home dad. I was like, is he like motivated? Like, is he driven? I know that's terrible, but like, that's what I was thinking through. I was like, it's cute and not cute. Like, do I like that he wants that or not? Like, I don't know. Like, he wants to be a dad, cute.
My
stay at
dream of
home.
being a stay-at-home dad was that I had made so much money that I just didn't need to work.
Oh, okay. See,
I don't think I ever like clarified that though.
No, he was like, I just don't want to work. I was like, cute. So going off that, so I knew that. I knew you wanted to be like a little league baseball coach, but there was this one fall morning, and like I hope I can remember this for like the rest of my life, because sometimes even when I'm mad at you, I'll think of this moment, and it just like, I don't know, it's just like one of those moments where like one of the reasons like I chose you was because, and like I still choose you was because of this moment. And anywho, it was like a fall morning out, and I'm from Colorado, so it just had like that chill in the air where it's like it's fall and football and all this stuff. And I remember you coming up to my door. You had a gray quarter zip on, and we went to a little
Donut.
donut shop in Lawrence, and we were just sitting there and we had coffee, and you had your glasses on, which I loved your glasses, but you got LASIK, so no more glasses, but that's okay. And I just remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, I could see this being our life, like, 10, 15 years from now. Going to our kids' Little League game and bringing donuts, and like there's the chill in the air and all warm and cozy, and I have my coffee, and I just could like envision it in that moment. And I just felt so warm and just like I felt so safe with you, and that like our like the future that I wanted, there was hope in that. And so yeah, that was the moment where I was like, I think this could be like a forever sort of thing. So yeah, that's the moment that I think of.
That's really cute, babe.
I know, it's so cute.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all for today. Just like, subscribe, leave a comment. Just kind of some of your favorite moments or